I see we have our Live Out Live team back on, so I want to go ahead and pass it over to Candace. And Candace, thank you again. And I know we're in the second week of this, the end of the second week, and it's been amazing, all the guests that you have been bringing. So thank you so much for helping us to just up industry sessions, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Skylar. Hey, everyone. It's so good to see you guys again back for week 2. Hey, Marcus, thanks for letting us crash your session once again
Yeah, no
and help
problem.
elevate it with our guest today. Our industry guest is Mr. Jae Deal. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself, but I just wanted to just reintroduce myself to everyone and let you guys know that I'm Candace Newman, CEO and founder of Live Out Live, a live event concert platform that creates access and opportunity for young people like you guys to have access to the industry, access to my network, access to the people who I have high regard and respect for, which is why I wanted to collaborate with Skylar on this endeavor so that we can bring some of these people to you guys as potential mentors and people that you can inspire to connect with and be a part of their community as you are on your music, succession plan. So today, we're going to have Jae Deal moderated conversation with Mr. A.D. Johnson. I believe you guys recall he joined us last week. So I will hand over to A.D. and Jae Deal, and I look forward to hearing their conversation. Oh, and reminder, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand as the conversation is going. This is an opportunity for you guys to engage with your mentor, Jae Deal.
Hello, everyone. We back for round 2 or 3, I guess. Third time session for me. Glad to be back with another good friend, Jae Deal. He has, first off, I'm AD again. I don't know if you guys was in class last week or in the sessions. I'm currently at Mass Appeal as their head of sync and, also an independent music supervisor as well. Love these kind of discussions because there's definitely access to these things to kind of inspire for the next generation of executives, creators. So we have a great composer, producer, executive in his own right, A&R. Jay, let me know if I'm missing things out, but got credits galore. You can look him up. I think the most recent credit I text him about, I was like, Charlie XCX, like, huh? Like Jae Deal be all over the industry, producing and composing and giving his talents to many dope artists from Janet Jackson to, Queen Latifah, Snoop Dogg, and various artists. So, but definitely want to get this conversation started and let Jae Deal kind of go more and tell us about the history of his work in this industry. So we can start there.
It's great to see you, AD. I mean, and thank you, Candace. And I see Scholars in there somewhere. And appreciate you, Marcus, allowing us to come in and just share. And that's pretty much me. I just go with the flow in every situation. I mean, of course, it took preparation and spiritual maintenance to get here, but we all in the same place right now. So it's not like there's any pedestal that I'm standing on. We're looking at each other and we all help each other. So thank you for letting me be here.
Yeah. So tell me more, where did you start in your journey of music? Like what was you can talk about, we can get to your current role, but like where did you break that start into this industry, when you said, man, I'm really doing this thing. Like what was that moment for you?
It's day to day, AD. It's like and for me personally, when about who's really doing it, there's going to be other people I can compare myself to. If we bring up Timberland or a Hitmaker right now, I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything. But it's staying in a state of gratefulness. I think when I hit that state of gratefulness where I was like, oh, this is something that's sustainable and people are giving me these opportunities, it was like around 20 2000, somewhere around there. And I had co-produced a song on a Disney soundtrack that Elton John wrote. and he was executive producer of, and I was working with a R&B group called Drew Hill back then. And so they let me come in the studio and do the same thing I was doing on tour, but with multiple instruments. I was able to layer more than just that one part. And people were like, "Oh, that's a sound," you know? And that encouraged me. At that point, I was like, "Oh, I might have a shot at really doing this thing," you know?
Man, that's a great start. Like that's a great kind of like, man, I really can, kind of like identifying that moment, oh, I can really like sustain in this industry. Like, so what are some other key experiences that helped you shape your path to your career today?
Well, that was the point to where I think I hit some traction and believed I saw what perseverance and making better decisions could do. But I had, at that point, I had already been in the industry or, making my way through about 12 years already. So, um, those things that, to answer your question, that really helped push me through a lot of community. So I was playing in church. And so some people have that as a part of their community, but others, I also tapped into the jazz community. And so I was learning my jazz vocabulary and developing relationships with those people. And then I also, one of the things that I think was a huge asset was I wasn't pigeonholed or small-minded with the types of people in the industry. So I got to know the accountants, the HR people at the labels, everybody, and stayed in contact with them. I would email them,
Yeah.
"Hey, how you doing?" And then if somebody was at one label, I stayed in contact with them, and what I found is they'd end up at another label, but by building a solid relationship, I would probably say if somebody was at Warner, I'd communicate with that one person, meet two or three other people at Warner, but then the Warner person will go to Atlantic or something, or you know, um, Universal, and then I know people in two different categories. Um, so all that to say, appreciating the human spirit and the human experience has been about a good third of what's allowed me to go further and further in this industry.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful, man. Like those different communities, because that's how we kind of met. We met in the jazz community of fellow musicians that we just never knew each other, then ran across each other about what 5 or 6 years ago,
Hmm.
And so just building those community and being in those relationships since then. So, what were some biggest challenges you faced, like in your career, that that you would say you look back on, man, like I really went through it, but I got out of it. But what was those biggest challenges that you faced in this music industry?
Um, to be honest, being in an unhealthy emotional and spiritual state that affected my decision making. So, that then had me hanging out with people that weren't aligned with my vision, and that affects your money, that affects your creativity, that affects your time management. And so, the biggest challenge was getting over myself, because then at that point, the sky was the limit, really, or I was the limit. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And then redefining what success is, because I'm a father today. So if I'm spending time with my daughter and she is really excited to talk with me and share her life with me as a teenager, I'm successful. You know what I mean? To me. And then as far as just core career related things, if I'm happy with the job that I did and I get respect and I'm able to give respect. Um, Now I'm gonna keep it real. I want to get paid.
Yeah.
You
What,
gotta get paid because I gotta take care of responsibilities.
was those moments those situations where you didn't get paid on some situation, but you still did it?
Yeah, there are some times that happens. I mean, it's definitely the kind of thing where I love the respect when people ask me first. Some people, I always feel like I shouldn't assume that a musician would just do it for free, or I shouldn't assume sometimes that they want to get paid whatever right up front. Because there's been some things where they were like, man, we didn't call you, we didn't know if we could. I'd be like, man, certain things, it's other solutions,
Yeah.
especially if you know how to negotiate deal points and deal memos, or if the relationships of it, you can maneuver it to where it's a win-win and it's an unconventional negotiation, then yeah, I live in them spaces. I'm like, we can all win. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Or at least none of us are losing. At least that, you know.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, it's the industry changes so fast, and you know this,
Yeah.
because you and I have seen each other pivot in several situations in these past couple of years. But the relationships and the learning agility and having the mindset like there is a solution, that's what gets me through.
Yeah, yeah, your pivot game got to be strong in this industry. At any moment, something can like just change your whole trajectory, and it just is what it is. But so let's get down to the music, man. Like you've been a part of this Grammy Award winning project this year. Let's talk about that. Like, what would what did when you begin working on a new track and an artist comes to you, especially whether they be indie or major artists, like how do you approach that? Working with that artist from a producer perspective.
Creatively or business wise?
Creatively first, yeah.
Okay. Because when I'm straight business wise, all types of ideas come.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, creatively.
okay, so creative. So after the business is at the conversation and all that's good, then I start uh talking with. It's all about understanding for me what is a win. Why am I here? You know what I mean? Some people, some artists, it's like, yo, it's got to be marketable. Or some people are like, it's just got to make money. Some people are like, I don't care if you buy it. I'm trying to say something. And other people are like, this is my brand. I'm sticking to the brand. And whether it makes money or not, of course, we would love for it to. But so understanding the artist, understanding what my role is, then that dictates to me how I create. Um, and I look at everything. I'm the type where I'll look at the whole room and see, okay, who are the key players and how can I make them shine, very transparently to the point that I'm getting the most. Because if everybody else is smashing, where everybody's happy, I've already talked about my business, then it's cool.
Yeah,
So sometimes creatively, my job, if me and you are collaborate, I might try to get the best ideas out of AD right now,
gotcha.
and that's the thing. Or if I'm feeling like you get to a certain point, and before I see a shift in the energy to where we're not being creative, I'll jump into my mode and add on to it, give you a break, and we tag team, or you figure out maybe the artist they get the most creativity out of like you set up the keyboard,
Hmm.
they're singing in real time because this is something they can't get if you just send them the track.
Right.
Some artists really like that. And then some artists you got to know when to give them space. Like, hey, I'm gonna go get some pizza, but they need to just be in their world
Yeah,
and
yeah.
write for a little bit.
Speaking to more to that, like, are there any like specific like techniques or rituals or tools you rely on to like spark that inspiration or shape your sound? Like, I know you speak to a little bit of it, but is there any key things that the one thing we know we leave in the studio to help kind of spark the inspiration, but go far as giving space. But if there's any other things you kind of help the artist with on that, or even yourself?
The thing that has helped me is, I would say, putting them 10,000 hours in on different skills. Because you know, you put anything in front of me now, technology wise, and I'm going to nerd out and find a way to have it inspire me. But I can't say for everybody, but for me, is two or three core pieces of technology that I know I can always go to for a fresh idea, and I know it in and out, that it doesn't slow me down trying to get a new idea out of it.
Yeah.
So some people like Logic, some like Ableton, some like an MPC, some like a guitar, some like um, drag and drop and loops, splice, whatever it is. And I also, before I even go to the session, preparation is everything. You know, I'll be watching the playoffs, the NBA playoffs, but just compiling sounds brainlessly. Like, oh, that's nice. Log it in and
Yeah,
not even make a track right then and there. But when I get into the session next time, I have at least 30 new sounds or loops, ideas that are fresh to me. So I'm kind of collaborating with myself at that point, you know.
yeah, that's dope. Like, is there any specific like man I know aha moments in the studio? Can you tell any stories of with working with one of these major artists that you was like, man, that really worked out. Like you really left the studio like y'all had one. One of the, everybody said they have that track that's gonna go across the airways. But like, do you have any of those stories, those cool stories, with any of the artists that you work with?
Um, let's see. I think one of the coolest moments was being on the tour bus. I was on tour with Neo, but I had always had my laptop ready. You
Yeah,
know, everybody else was playing video games, NBA, whatever, and Madden and stuff, or just sleeping. And as soon as we got on the bus after the shows, I would pull my laptop out because I was drawing from the energy on stage.
yeah,
And one time Neo was just like, I like seeing people work. I like seeing people work hard like that because I was just more than a bass player at that point. So it was like, and he never got on the tracks he had wanted to, but that let me know. I was like, oh, well, if he hears it like that, then Lord knows who else will hear it like that. So I just kept being productive.
yeah. First of all, how many instruments you play? Because I only knew you for the keys a lot of times. I didn't know you played bass. What else? What's some other instruments you play?
Oh yeah, I started on bass. I
Okay.
started on bass. I'm really not amazing on any instrument. I think I definitely hold my own on synthesizer bass, but for me, understanding orchestration and arrangement helps me. I could play one note on the guitar, hit my little two finger chords on the piano,
Yeah.
get in the plug-in, and because I keep my mind open and listen to every genre with an open mind. Like country, I self-studied country music for a good 6 years. So
Yeah.
I know the inflections of a pedal steel. I know what it is to do high string guitars. You know, you're holding the root on the high note and having I understand these things and then add a little bit of the church element, like playing B3 organ. You don't even really have to play the chords all the way if you understand the instrument because you could pull out certain stops and it'll
Draw.
do
Yeah.
different, yeah, the drawbars and give you different intervals. So I could transport, I'll be playing in another key sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I knew you played bass, but I didn't know you was on tour like that. That's why I was
Oh
interested
yeah,
in
yeah. I
that
played
story.
bass
That's why I was
on
like,
Janet Jackson's tour. I played bass for Neo, Janet Jackson, Snoop, Jessica Simpson. I forget. It's been so
yeah,
big. Yeah, but I mean, I think the thing, like I said, I'm not Thundercat by far. It's just that being able to know what that role, understanding what that role means historically and how it fits into pop music, and then coming in and being musical yet playing the part has really helped me, and it translated to records as well.
yeah. A lot of my friends, they always say knowing how to play the record, that's what the artists sometimes just want. They'll give you their time to shine, but every artist not looking for the guitar solo on every song or everything. You got to know how to play the groove and play and know the tunes. That's been preached to me forever. So yeah, you spot on. You don't never. That's a good point. Like you don't have to be the best at any instrument, but if you can play the gig, I think that's the most important. I see it time and time again happen for a lot of musicians. They just knew how to play the tunes. But in this
Yeah,
industry,
speaking to
yeah, go
that,
ahead.
AD,
Yeah, go ahead.
knowing how to play the tunes, I think it's great that nowadays they have these stem splitting programs
Yeah,
because you can listen to it, take a hit record and split the stem, and then listen to the element, you'd be like, oh, that's part of the record right there, and then it increases my awareness of putting elements together and what the cohesive sound is.
So you're saying you'll take the stems and only listen to your part to kind of understand more of that song? That's what you're saying on that?
Yeah, well, even with understanding as a producer these days, if there's a song that I like that's in the top billboards, I'll just split the stems and listen to it. I'm like,
Gotcha.
well, they did that. And now I can even understand more as a producer what makes these hit songs.
Yeah. Got you. Well, speaking on this technology movement, we're in one of the biggest technology like movements in music right now. And you talked about like this that stem splitter. I think that's one of the most coolest new technology that I've seen happen over the years. So with the industry constantly evolving, like what are some other new trends or technologies or that you've been kind of like, man, this actually elevated my production or my playing style? There's anything like, even just shaping your landscape on what the music technology kind of provides for you. Like what are those things that you feel?
Shoot, like dolls, there's so many creation tools now. There's like I live in Pro Tools, but
Okay.
let me look at my list of, so there's Studio One, that's the one I use the least, but Ableton, Moises, which is dope because I have taken every piece of music I've made since I was 8 years old, I saved it. So I've been taking stuff off cassette tape. I got DAT tapes. I got cassette tapes. I got VCR tapes. All that. I'm still recording the VCR. I mean, you see a lot of new technology, but mixing the old with the new. So I might take a stem off of a cassette tape track I did years ago where, okay, the drums was whack, but I like what I was doing with the keyboards. Put it through Moises, isolate the keys, and then re-record it on VCR, to give it that retro feel. And of course, you can use plugins to do all this. I mean, Baby Audio makes a VHS plugin, but the fact that I did it like this, I feel like my vibe is on it so analog, and I put such care into it. And then um, I have to process the sound for it to even record or track on this real clean.
Mm,
So then I'm making sure my levels are nice and the EQ is a nice feel. What else I have in here? Logic, of course, Reason 13, contact libraries, all types of stuff. And I'll try anything once and at least get a sample out of it, you know. Even if
gotcha.
I don't like it, I'm like, it sounds different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. So how do you balance all that with, all these new technologies using, mixing some with the older than new? How do you stay true to your style while experimenting with those new sounds and production techniques?
My main style is helping everybody make some money.
Okay.
That's my style. I'm like, what? And I'm joking there, but if you replace the money with achieving the goal, then that's where I am. And it's like, I think the thing that helps me to stay working is being versatile and being open-minded.
Yeah.
So it don't matter what the genre is, I'm gonna study it, I'm gonna respect it, and I'm gonna add value. And that allows me to also do mashups. So like even with the Charlie thing, that is a core um the underlying composition, I was thinking Maurice Ravel when I created that,
Mm,
you know. So it's totally French Impressionism, and I feel like Ravel is we're finding out 100 years later, I feel like he was a predecessor to modern jazz in some ways, because there's like 7 and 9 chords, etc. But the way that he placed these orchestral elements together, I'm like, okay, I feel like if I create a few of these sound palettes in with a groove that Jay Dilla would swing the instruments, if he had access to treating these instrument groups of an orchestral ensemble like samples, what would that feel like?
Yeah.
And they feel good enough to sample and put in any context. So that same sample Ty Dolla and them used on Vultures, you know. But Charlie Charlie's A&R heard it and paired it with another producer, and they made it into a club track.
Wow.
So um I guess I'm answering the question.
No, no,
Like,
you answered it. It's just far as how you stay true to the sound, you stay true to whatever your artist you're working with. You want to make sure that's because sometimes artists come to you and get your sound, but you know every producer and composer is different. So sometimes if you're, you know, because sometimes you don't have the freedom to work with that artist in studio. So sometimes you have to, you know, send them tracks. So how do you feel about that? Do you think it's I know in the landscape of A&R and today, people always, you know, A&R say, hey, send me a link.
mhm.
Do you think that's better, or you think in studio is still like something that should be happening? Because it's time. Like a lot of times it's because of time constraints.
Yeah, there's advantages to both. And so I think to be prepared for both is you know, the way to go. So I do blindly just create things because you never know. And I think the thing about um true to self, if it comes from the heart, it could resonate in a special way with other people. There's some stuff that I do that's just like, man. And I had fun doing it. I had fun doing that Charlie thing. I didn't know what it was for. I did it 5 years ago and forgot about it.
Yeah.
I do remember I had a lot of fun. I was like, I'm just go crazy. Like, you know, it's probably beyond the point of no return. Now ain't nobody singing over this, but here you go. And then so between that and then always keeping my skill up so that if somebody calls and say, let's start from scratch, I know that there's some things that I could do in the room in real time that it's enough for the writer to get excited about, and then I can go home and refine it later. But at least I stay ready enough to know here's my toolbox. I can whip up something I know you're gonna love writing to right now.
Yeah. Got you. Man, like that's impressive. Like to see, you know, how you approach different, you know, artist requests, and I think that's very important. You know, like sometimes it's not all about you as a producer, composer. It's about how do we elevate this artist's sound and you know make the record. Also, you know, that's about the money part. You got to get the place because sometimes you can create all that music. Sometimes the placement doesn't happen. You know,
Mhm.
and so those are you know some key elements. You know that can kind of take away, but you know, looking back, you know, on your career, like what's that one lesson or piece of advice you wish you had known earlier in your career?
Um, there's seasons, you know, there's seasons. So I think I'm in a season of my life where, yeah, okay, I can fall back and do whatever is required to make the hit. But there was a time in my life when I was younger where I did have to develop a sound. I did have to develop an identity. And I don't know, managing the ego is a very interesting, nuanced
Yeah,
thing. But right now, my ego is focused on taking care of my daughter and leaving a legacy for myself and seeing what retirement could look like, you know. So I'm 50 this year, so it's like I think a little different now with my music and the catalog than when I could ride the bus until the wheels fall off when I was in my 20s. And all of it is good, you know, it's just different mentalities for different stages. So that's what I wish I learned earlier is like looking at the marathon of this thing.
yeah,
There was things when I was younger I wish that I had said or didn't say that would affect me 20 years later.
yeah.
Literally. And
Wow.
so finding the right mentor, understanding as much as I can about how things work, even though I feel like things should work a certain way.
Yeah,
Um, if it should be different, then try to help get it towards that way. But if it's working, if this is the reality, embrace reality, and you know. don't try to stick my foot out and trip a freight train because that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah. We
Yeah.
have a question in the chat here. It's one of I think Luna said, what is the effect of a session with an artist who does or doesn't come from a background of music or doesn't have a vision? I think that's Luna said she came from a person of classical. You came from jazz and other gospel elements. Like when that artists don't come from that musical background, like is it difficult or does it matter in those cases?
Yeah, I think it's the effect of the session is it kind of leads to communication or bust at that point. So if you are finding that there's not this connection or understanding, then it's time to communicate in some way. Has to, or else, you know, there are some situations where maybe the two sides just do what they do and miraculously you come together like peanut butter and chocolate Reese's, but sometimes but in most cases what I've seen, and see, I self-studied classical for a super long time too. So I never took a music class in my life,
Wow.
but I've ended up teaching at USC for 5 years, USC Thornton School of Music for production. So it is possible to respect the craft enough to self learn. Um, but being the more versatile that I am, the least less that happens. Where let's see, what is the effect? Yeah, it's mostly a greater effect the more my vocabulary grows, and that takes time and effort. So if you're on the younger side of things, don't feel ashamed about it, not having these other things under your belt yet. Just make a effort to go out there and expose yourself to more of it. And by osmosis, it will get into your spirit. At least learn some of the vocabulary, and that's be your entryway into collaborating with other people with other backgrounds.
Yeah, because that word of mouth gets, if, word of mouth gets around. Like I think that's probably a lot of us get out our sessions or, just invites to create is because of referrals a lot of times too. So yeah, it's very important to know it, but sometimes you got to know how to pivot if you may not know and just learn to, kind of learn more, add to your arsenal.
Mhm.
So Aubrey had a question as well. She said, "How did it feel playing with Lady Gaga when she first started gaining recognition?"
That was great. Yeah, that was great. Lady Gaga was super talented, and she
Yeah.
was showing me my parts.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, she was
Are you
showing.
showing you like she played them or she
She
had?
played it.
Okay,
She
wow.
played it. Yeah, so I was doing my things with her. She was like, "Yeah, try this," and her precision and what she was looking for and the part elevated the respect that I had for my duty.
Yeah.
And so it was good to see, and none of us knew who she was. So that's what made it very it was interesting.
What year was that?
I want to say 2007-ish or something,
Got you.
something like that. Somebody could look it up, whatever year that was. But so I got the phone call from Kern Brantley,
Hmm.
and he was like, "Yeah, man, I need you to fill in for something. I'm gonna be out." I was like, "All right." He called me up. We go to SIR, and some of the other homies, Monty Newble, and some other people were there. So I felt comfortable with the musicians, but we had no idea who this artist was.
Right.
And so they were like, and then Walter Millsap was like one of the other A&Rs or something. He's like, "Yeah, it's Lady Gaga." He was like, "Lady Gaga? Who is Lady Gaga?" It was like, it's gonna be on Jay Leno. He was like, "Jay Leno?" Like, I got on the internet, couldn't find anything about this artist, nothing. We rehearse, she comes in, the wardrobe and all, she's always in that mode at this time.
It's always an artist, yeah.
Yes, yep. And so it's like, "Oh, okay, okay." And so listen to the music, and she's like, "Yeah, why don't you think about?" We was like, "Oh." Okay, so we finally do the show, and Jay Leno, you know how he introduces the artist. He was like, "Welcome with me, Billboard's #1 artist, Lady Gaga." And we looked around, we was like, #1? So we do the show, bro. That next morning, looked at Billboard. She was #1. We were like, "Oh wow, wow!" And that taught me a lesson too. I was like, "Don't sleep on anybody. Don't assume what I don't know." Just go and put my best foot forward and get with the machine when they call you. 'Cause-
Yeah, and I bet that's also goes to Luna's other question, like an artist knowing the craft of music helps and elevates it, like to me. Like it's like she was able to kind of pull something out of you that you didn't know that she was even looking for, or she wanted, but she was able to articulate it musically to you. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
yeah, these people they know once they get to a certain level that I at that point in my career I had worked with enough artists to know like just listen.
Yeah,
Just listen, by the time the whole label is talking about, oh, this person, it don't matter if you don't know them or if you heard a few songs and you think they whack, just well, just wait a minute. Because
yeah,
for some reason they got that far.
yeah. I thought of a question while you was explaining that, like the fact that y'all didn't know who the artist was, like kind of their background. Do you think it's important to go in working with any artist, knowing a little bit history about them? Because that was very interesting. That could have went left if y'all kind of like treated her a certain way, and
Right.
you didn't know that, hey, this the artist with the #1 record, but
Yeah.
it worked out for you. But how important do you feel knowing a little background about the artist?
It's super important, and that's why by that time I had looked and I was trying to find because not that I put my foot in my mouth, but I kind of slept on some other situations in the past. And what I had learned is to trust the executives and the team members of these engines when they tell me, look out, because this is
Yeah,
on the way. So I do normally like to do my research, find out with whom I'm in the room. But this particular time was one of them situations where I couldn't find anything. So I just had to trust the people who had called me. You know,
yeah,
Walter Millsap had called me. He's in the background, but y'all could look him up if you kind of want to figure out his page. But with him telling me to, you know, this is nice.
yeah, and
Yeah,
that's why I put the timestamp on it, because 2007 Google was not Google what it is today. It
right.
wasn't a slate of all information on everybody. It's that thing, but that's why I'll make sure the people recognize what year that was, because it's gonna have to be word of mouth. Like your guy told you, hey, look out for this, and that was the heads up. Now you can go in before you even reach an artist. It don't matter who it is. Go to the Instagram or whatever. You couldn't do that in 2007. Like,
Yeah, I probably had to get on AOL or something back
yeah,
then.
YouTube. Some people had YouTube videos up, but yeah, it was a whole nother world in 2007.
Oh yeah.
Um, well, we get to the point where we can have the students ask questions. Are there any more questions specific?
You got a hand in the room too.
A hand in the room.
Yeah, that's me.
Go ahead, go
So
ahead.
hey Jay, thanks for dropping in on our class. I actually got a couple of different things. The first thing I wanted to kind of highlight on the note that you gave about like the samples and stuff like that, and using the splitters and stuff. So for my main creative process, I mainly use Studio One, but I'm in Pro Tools and things like that. So that's great advice to give to the students about using those new splitters and those new tools. One thing I wanted to add to that to kind of give something to the students is even learning some of those parts, like Jay was saying. You can take those splitters, put it in a splitter, and then use something like Melodyne, like Celemony Melodyne, and actually change that audio to MIDI and get those MIDI notes. So you can actually learn exactly what those chords or what those notes are. So I wanted to throw that. So, but AD, you mentioned Google. With Google, Jay, I found out that we got something in common. I see that you were from Baltimore.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm from the DC area. I was born and raised in
Okay.
DC and in Maryland or whatever and stuff. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the students don't know, like the DC Maryland area has a lot of musical history. I mean, from all types of genres to jazz to popular music. I mean, the work you did with Drew Hill. I mean, we got Crystal Waters, the Gypsy women, from this area. Chuck Brown, the whole. I mean, we can go on
Yeah.
and on for days.
Yeah.
Don't
George
forget
Clinton.
Go-Go. Don't
Growing
forget
up, yeah,
Go-Go.
the
Yeah,
Go-Go,
all
yeah,
the
that's why I
go-go.
said Chuck Brown or whatever. Rest in peace to him. But growing up in Maryland and in Baltimore, or whatever, with go-go house music music and all of that different stuff. Can you just talk about kind of, how did that influence you in the music? Because I know how this area influenced music with me, but how did that just growing up in this area influence you with music?
Oh, well, yeah, you already know it's definitely a sound out there. And I mean, go for real, like that swing value of things and that and I actually I'm working on George Clinton's album right now as we speak. So he has some deep roots out there, but the full band experience, that and keeping it a party, because go-go, if for those of y'all who aren't familiar with it, it feels like a DJ in the sense that it never stops. And there's this heavy breakbeat element. It's just like you'll go in between the tunes, and the drummer and the percussionist keep going, so people can dance with no breaks in between the songs, like for hours, literally for hours. And then every once in a while, these musical elements will drop in from the live players, but they feel like samples in a way. It's just like catchy motifs with the MC on the mic the whole time. I think having this awareness of things and understanding from a music creation perspective what makes people dance and what's catchy to people, that has been an influence. And then they have this relatively new genre out now, Jersey music. But the Baltimore clubs had we've been doing that. I There was this one beat from when I was in high school, and I sampled it and made a beat out of it. My daughter, who's 17, heard it. She's like, "Oh, yeah, Daddy, like this is." I was like, "Man, I was literally listening to this when I was your age." Like, so that sound of the sped up hip hop beats turned into like we did that in Baltimore for years, and I think that's been a big influence and giving me a step up and incorporating those grooves in my production as well.
Yeah, man, like that's insane. Like that, people, you might want to write a story on that evolution of when that, when the start of some of these new sounds, because sometimes I feel like they come back around, they just come back around in a fresh way, kind of thing.
You're absolutely right. And that's the thing is, I did realize after a while, if you really study the BPMs and the vibes of things, I was telling my daughter, I said, I could look at the top songs in April, then I could look at the top songs in maybe June, and I could tell you what maybe two or three possibilities of the top songs will be by September, because it goes in cycles. And then you get to these they go up to you know you can't break my soul.
Yeah,
Okay, it's gonna get about that fast, then it's gonna slow down, then it gets really electronic, and now next thing you might see is guitars all over the place
yeah,
and break down to MTV Unplugged. And then the younger people are like, oh, this sound is so fresh, I never heard anything like this before.
yeah,
And we looking at it like, well, we knew that was gonna happen.
yeah. Do you feel, Marcus? Did you have any more questions on there?
No, that was it for me. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, thank you.
Was there any other questions? I was going to go into something else, but to make sure I have any more questions popping up over here. Anybody wanna? Okay, come on, Ron.
Hello. Thank you so much, Jae Deal, for sharing your story experience and answering our questions. Thanks to Candace and AD for getting all of us connected. Um, so I first and foremost wanted to say that Everything is Romantic is my favorite song off of Brat, specifically because of your work with Joint 2. Uh, so it's cool to, I have a lot of respect for your work. Um, and I also found it interesting, right now how you're talking about growing up in Baltimore and kind of how a lot of that sound has grown into like Jersey music and things just come around. You've and over time you're kind of seeing the patterns in mainstream music. I was wondering when you're collaborating with artists, the artists probably tell you an approximation of when things are going to drop. Do you use those sort of predictions to kind of influence the production process, depending on when the artist releases?
Um, I think if I know that it's going to drop immediately, then I do. Otherwise, I'm looking more timeless for me. And I know that from a harmonic language standpoint, I could hang with the best of them, as far as coming up with progressions, chord progressions that are unique, or at least variations on it to where it's simple, but like joint two is the same thing over and over again, those same dun, 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 but it's Maurice Ravel doing it.
Yeah.
So I try to so like with this George Clinton album, we have no idea when it's dropping. We've been working on it for 4 years. So with that being said, it's like cats like me, Corey Henry, Marlon Barrow, and um Jairus Mose. It's just like real music. And
Yeah.
so we know whenever it drops. But I wouldn't take that same approach if the label came to me and said we're going for a pop star or somebody like a Kid Leroy or something, because that's gonna be all about when it drops, you know.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much.
That's a great
Um,
question. Well, go ahead though. You got some
yeah,
more?
no, no, sorry. Because I was also thinking about you said you have your three main tools that or every kind of producer should have their three main tools for getting inspiration from, and I know one of those you commented on was your dog. Could you like delve into more of the tools that you use to come up with just new and interesting, sounds consistently and sustainably, which is
For sure. One for sure is mathematics as it applies to music theory. So let me ask you a couple questions so I could answer in a more informed way. Do you play any instruments?
yeah, I played the keys, do voice.
Okay. Yes, yes. So you understand. Did you take any music theory?
Yeah.
Okay. So, from a very simple approach from there, I know that for one, for any melody, I could come up with three bass notes that match that one note in the harmonic progression. And that's because, out of the chord, at least three notes make a chord. So I'll just choose any one of those bass notes as a root. And that gives me a lot of freedom. That's a tool in my toolbox, because depending on where the lyrical content is at the time, I'll either can make the chord major or minor. And it's like magic. It's like, okay, if somebody starts the session out with a splice loop and it's the same 4 bars over and over, but I know that I can filter out the low end and then keep flipping the bass around at different points, then it's like magic. See, in the way I know you understand that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you might have in your own arsenal certain things about music theory that will never fail you. And the more you use them, you almost sometimes forget about them. Then they'll just come out of nowhere because they're embedded in your spirit. So music theory, math, technical um, prowess is another tool. Um, and just being an engineer. I'm not an engineer in a conventional sense, like a recording or track engineer or mix engineer, but I know how to manipulate sound after studying for so long. And there's a lot of tricks that I could do to enhance the creative process. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for that thoughtful answer.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that totally makes sense. Like maintaining the identity of the song with the bass note, and then you can just kind of pivot uh depending on what the artist is looking for. I think that's really cool advice. So thank you. Appreciate that a lot.
Yep. And another tool too for pop music is understanding the power of just a pure sine wave. So any you can thicken any sound by adding a pure sine wave to it. Take the MIDI and then so like Marcus was saying, something that I like to do too is when there's an acoustic piano in the room, no matter how they mic it or whatever, even if it's pristine, I could melodyne it take the MIDI and then layer that with a pure sine wave, it just gives it such richness. You know what I mean? Um, and some songs you could literally change every soft synth into a sine wave. Just see what that feels like. That's another section of the song. When you give that to a writer, you're doing the beat and then you just break it down where you take the beat out and all the harmonic content is just sine waves with the low end being, heavy saturated. So it's almost like an 808. They'd be like, woo, they just get to writing at that point. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Oh, that makes so much sense. We were talking about kind of synth design in the course and kind of just mashing together all the sine waves and just how powerful that is. Um, I was wondering just one more question because as you were talking about technical prowess and sort of what was the word you used? Warping like audio essentially and manipulating audio. I was just kind of wondering what's like one of your like most fun like tricks that you use for just taking audio and then warping it, distorting it, whatever you may do to give it kind of that unique sound.
Oh, well, I'm looking at some of these tools I have. Um, well, one, I have let me see if I could. I got an FM radio transmitter.
Oh, nice.
So I just send certain stems through the airwaves, and then I got a regular household amplifier slash receiver from the 90s. And I bought the receiver for like $5 from Goodwill. Uh and so what happens is when you send the signal through the airwaves, through FM radio, it does FM modulation and changes the phase coherency of the sound. So you in in very short terms, it's like a lo-fi feel, but it gives people that retro feel and they don't understand. You're literally listening to your track on the radio.
Yeah.
There are elements from the radio. And then I also master I'm surprised I don't have a cassette tape within reach. But yeah, I got a whole bunch of cassette tapes. But look up this term since it seems like you might so point set topology. I'll type it in here. And this is the branch of mathematics that I was really heavy into in college. By the time I graduated, I did my thesis on Fourier synthesis and transforms. And that's more so in a really heavy frequency domain. Point set topology is more in an abstract domain, and it's part of the technology that let me close this window 1 second. It's part of the tech, it's part of the methodology that Shazam uses. So there's a unique shape to every song. If you look at a three-dimensional plane of frequency, amplitude, and time. So there's a unique three-dimensional surface, if you will, of a song. And this is what Shazam calls a fingerprint, right? So in my mind, I'm looking in several different areas about the fingerprint of a song, whether it's the form of the song, like what makes that unique. I worked with Diane Warren for a while, and I noticed these irregular forms. Almost all her hits have irregular song forms, and it's about capturing the listener's attention and holding it captive. The second I feel like the listener could lose interest at that point, I'm doing something. I'm either going to the next section right away, or I'm adding a sound, or I'm taking the drums out. Like, I don't ever want to lose the listener's attention. And topology helped me to understand that. Looking at the shapes of these different songs, I'm asking myself, what's going on sonically with this hit? Like, why did they add that sound? When did this sound come out? Or what's going on with the lyrical content? I see it's 3:55. I could go on for days, so I'm gonna just stop right here. Thank you
Oh,
for letting me
That's the
go on a
teacher in
tangent.
you, Jay. That's the teacher in you.
Yeah. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much, Ron, for all your great questions. Do appreciate it. And yes, we definitely coming up on time. I only had one last question. It's real easy. What's one piece of advice you want to leave with the students to inspire them to keep going across their musical journey?
One piece of advice I would say to inspire you to keep going on your musical journey is I've come up with a healthy definition of success for you. Otherwise, there's a chance of a bunch of disappointment and spiritual misalignment and comparing. So, having a healthy definition of success for you and enjoy the process, stay healthy with it. And, because there were times I literally, after even being on tour, there were times when I became a father and I was cleaning bathrooms and doing music. And I was one of the happiest people because I knew I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, you know? And
Yeah.
if I had to go back to that to be doing what I'm supposed to doing, I'll do it. Hopefully I could keep doing music on the level I'm doing now, but I won't let it steal my joy or my purpose and relationships. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, well, Jay, thank you so much. And shout out to Candace and Skylar for the invite. Another dope conversation. And I'll let you guys take it from here. But thank you guys again.
Thank you so much, AD. Thank you, Jay. Those were amazing tips that you shared, and just the spirituality that you incorporated in your teachings today is so important because we are living in the spiritual realm. We are here operating and moving together. And despite what path we go on in our journeys in our career, we still have to keep grounded in that same concept and that notion of operated at a spiritual level. So I'm so grateful that you shared that piece of you, that personal piece of you, and also all of the technical aspects that you shared again today. I know it resonated with a lot of the students here because they are learning this from Marcus week by week throughout the industry session. So it was important to hear from you, and thank you so much for spending time with us. Skylar, you want to take it away? Thank you, Skylar, again. You guys can follow Jay at the website information that we sent, or Jay, if you have any additional information that you want to share about where they can connect with you, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
It's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your knowledge. A lot of stuff I was learning for the first time hearing this about you. I didn't know you were that technical with it. We got to do a part 2 with you. So that's
Anytime, man. It's a pleasure to finally
yeah.
to work with you in this way, Skylar.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great. So thank you all, Candace. Always thank you, AD, Marcus. It's crazy. We are at week 4. We'll be at week 5 next week. We'll have one more guest join us before the last week, but been great sessions each week. So thank you all. Marcus, did you want to end with anything?
No, well, Jay, thank you for definitely taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and talk, with the students here. What's been fun over the last, 2 weeks on having a guest speaker is that you guys have really been reinforcing a lot of the stuff I've been teaching, and, I just saw like Ron's eyes light up when you mentioned about sine waves. We were talking about sine waves and just, synthesis and stuff, so just thank you for being able to share your knowledge and things and reinforce some of the things that I've been teaching over the last few weeks.
Awesome. All right, you all. Well, everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Thank you so much.
Follow.
Yeah.
Thank you.